All right, good morning. This calls our meeting to order to the Marshall County Board of Supervisors regular session here Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, 9 a.m. here at the Marshall County Courthouse. Notice to the public, the Board of Supervisors welcomes comments from the public during the time allowed for discussion. You're requested to approach the podium right over here to my right, to your left. Use the microphone, state your name, address, and for the record, limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given the opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chair to read the item from the agenda. The board is given the opportunity to comment on the issue and or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented at which the public may participate, and a roll call vote will follow. On our attendance today, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Here.
Salasek?
Here.
Hibbs?
Here.
All right, could you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I would so move.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. No amendments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Salasek?
Yes.
Hibbs?
Yes.
Thank you. On to consent agenda. 5A, approve regular session minutes, May 24, 2023, and May claims list. Approve claims as audited, that's 5B. 5C, file manure management plan for Blue Valley Pork MMP, Burt Farm 59927, no changes. Hog Heaven Finisher MMP, Pickard Brothers Finisher MMP, Langmaid Farm 58012 with changes. Jared Whitaker 70163, no changes. Justin Whitaker 66798, no changes. 5D, file Clerk of District Court report for April 2023. 5E, file the Sheriff's Office quarterly report January through March 2023. And that is the end of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on these items?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
The motion is second. Do we have any comments or concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Salasek?
Yes.
Hibbs?
Yes.
All right, on to number 6. Approve State of Iowa Renewal Tobacco License, Prime Stop. This is to approve the State of Iowa retail permit application for cigarette tobacco nicotine vapor for Prime Stop, 1659D Marshalltown Boulevard, Melbourne, Iowa. Permit effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve the State of Iowa retail permit application for cigarette tobacco nicotine vapor for Prime Stop, 1659D Marshtown Boulevard, Melbourne, Iowa. Permit effective 7/1/2023 to 6/30 of 2024.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Salasek?
Yes.
Hibbs?
Yes.
All right, number 7, approve band shell contract for Ridiculous Days on July 28th, 2023.
I'll make a motion that we approve the band shell contract for Ridiculous Day on July 28th, 2023.
I'll second.
We have the motion and the second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, to approve.
Kyle?
Yes.
Salasek?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Rolling along to number 8, approval of chairman to sign Bryholt's change order number 9 for $66,950.16. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion then to approve Bryholt's change order number 9 in the amount of $66,950.16 and authorize the chair to sign.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Lucas, could you come up and share a little bit about this, please? You sit in the back, you're getting a workout.
Right. Lucas Beck, Buildings and Grounds Director. This is just approving you to sign previous change order requests that we have done. In those approvals, we didn't have anything about actually signing the change order, so this
Okay.
is just giving you approval to sign the official document.
Excellent. And then while you're up here,
Yeah.
Why don't we
You wanna
just,
run through
so
the
we
other
don't have
stuff
you
quick?
run back and
Yeah,
forth, let's
let
go
me
through
grab
number
those
9.
papers quick. 'Cause I was planning to take 2 trips.
Well,
It was
now you
his
did.
morning workout, come on.
All right, yeah, for the next item, just to talk quick, we have 4 potential change orders. I actually want to throw out, oh, I deleted it off my list here. I think it's number 19 or 119 for the light switch ad in this room. I think it's something that James and I can do ourselves for a lot cheaper. But for change order request 117, rework earn base, that is something that Perfection had done improperly, and that will, we will add that to our damages list and add that on. For change order request 118, we needed to paint the fireplaces, the historic fireplaces on 2nd and 3rd floor. They weren't in the original contract to be painted, so there was a little bit of an ad for that. That work's already been done, so we probably need to approve that. And then the last thing, our mechanical engineer didn't add outlets under sinks where there are motion-activated sinks, and we didn't want to use batteries, so we needed to add an outlet there. So nothing major here outside of the perfection damages. So my recommendation for approval is just 17, 18, and 20, and I printed off the wrong paper for the totals, so you're gonna have to do some math on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lucas. Does anyone have questions for him? All right, so we have a motion and a second on item number 8 on the approval of the chairman to sign the change order. Any further comments on that? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Kolosik?
Yes.
Hibbs?
Yes.
All right, number 9, the discussion and possible action to approve Bry Holt's, what's that? Yeah, we're on to number 9 now. Yep. Approve Bry Holt's COR number 117, 118, not 119 is what we'll amend on this, correct? 120, and approve chairman to sign official change order when ready.
I'll make a motion that we approve change orders 117, 118, 120, and authorize the chairman to sign those change orders when ready.
I'll second.
All right, we got the motion second. Do we have any further discussion, questions on this? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Kolosik?
Yes.
Hibbs?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, number 10, discussion and possible action to determine options for issues in Marshall County parking spaces. This is, since we're now back working in the courthouse, there's, the public has kind of gotten used to parking in spots that weren't necessary for county employees, as county employees were displaced in other areas. So it's now trying to figure out how to retrain the public to know which spots are the counties, which aren't, even though there is signage in those areas, and I think it's signed very well. I think it's just kind of ignored at this time because it hasn't been enforced. So I don't know, I think Nan and or Lucas had some stuff to share on this.
Yes, so, well,
And we're gonna have,
I'll come up here and then we can.
I'll just talk, good. So we'd noticed that we have some folks from other local buildings parking in our parking because they've been doing it the last nearly 5 years, and of course, they were used to that. That makes sense. We did inform tenants in the Masonic Temple building that, you know, we were kind of back and tried to, you know, at least give them that heads up. They were all very, you know, thanked us for getting the information and, you know, said that they would distribute it to all their staff. So we have a little problem in that parking lot also in where the exit is at. We have people actually parking in the exit spots. That hasn't been quite as bad the last few days. Last week it was bad. It's really bad.
And we did just get lines repainted there, so it's pretty clear on where the lines are and where the exit is.
Yeah.
Well, the exit isn't super clear.
The parking lot kind of snakes, and this doesn't show it all that well. So you actually enter in on the north side entry to the parking lot, and it just snakes around to the south there, and this shows it better. And this spot kind of right here is actually an exit lane to the parking a lot, and people tend to park there. And it makes it difficult for the people that are in that lane, because then they have to back all the way out. So our big problem at this point is how do we enforce limited parking? Because we only have enough spots for county employees, and we actually give 4 spots to HHS and 2 spots to juvenile court services. And that pretty much fills the lot. So if we have extra people in it, we have a problem.
Plus the vehicles owned by the state or
Yes.
county for those departments are also located in that parking lot.
There's 6 of those.
Yeah. So we had kind of started our office, because our office faces the lot. We had been putting some notes on vehicles last week, just saying that it may lead to a ticket and/or towing, and just as kind of a warning.
Are
And
you tracking the vehicles that you put notes on?
we have not been, no. We know that the ones we are putting notes on, they do not have the sticker. And we are getting a license plate and double checking with Cassandra Gerstad in my department for,
Make sure that.
yeah, to compare with the license plates, to make sure we're not putting it on any county folks' vehicles. So that is one of the reasons it's nice that we have everybody's license plate numbers as well, so that it's just a little easier for us to, kind of manage that. Seems like most people know what folks drive. I can usually ask Lucas, who drives the blah, 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 and he knows.
Some days.
Yeah, so, one of the things, Jarrett, you reached out to the Marshalltown PD.
Yeah, and it was shared with us, as long as we have everything well marked with our signage, our lines, et cetera, we can request to have these vehicles towed at some point. Now, obviously, I don't want to start towing today, but I think getting a warning out to the public that maybe like July 1st, we'll start towing if this issue continues.
Is there won't the PD ticket before they?
They do have parking enforcement.
Yeah.
How robust that is that's the question. And so that was what Chief Tupper's suggestion to us was, well, if the enforcement from their end or other means is not working,
Right.
the towing can really help take care of the problem. Once you get your vehicle towed, you are very unlikely to
Then-
park there again.
I guess my thought is a progressive, instead of immediately going to towing.
Agreed.
We may have a period of ticketing.
Yeah, we do have the ability in our parking ordinance, I think it's number 31, that we can assign a parking attendant for the county. How that works, I don't know. I would assume that maybe the sheriff could have some input on how we could write a parking ticket, or how it's enforceable, or even what that money's used for, but we do have that ability.
I did mention that if we did start doing tickets, we could put it in the fund to repair the parking lot.
We have to write a lot of tickets.
Are the shipping containers still up against the Masonic
No.
Temple? They are gone now. And that's their parking, isn't it?
No, that is ours.
That's still our
We have
parking.
58 spots in the east lot over here.
All right.
We have 58 spots there, 11 on First Ave, and we've given 13 spots out of the engineers lot to, I think those are assigned to the judicial branch, so. So we have enough parking for everyone that works in this building and 6 people outside of this building.
Okay.
So we're trying to accommodate as much as we can. It's just a premium.
Who's putting notes on now?
Currently,
I think,
it's my
yeah,
office.
Your
Dan's
office.
office just kind of took that initiative.
Is it the same person? Will they know chronic offenders? or-
Yeah. Yes, they will. And we laminate them because it was raining the first day, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think some sort of parking attendant could be really helpful. We've had a lot of volunteers for that, except for when you tell them that it would be in the winter as well. So that gets a little tougher.
Are we okay with the VA van parking in there? Would you like to see it
Well,
somewhere
that's,
else?
that's accounted for.
Okay.
Yep,
Yes.
I've spoken with Kevin about that. The assessor's office has a vehicle as well, and HHS has 3, and the courts have 1. I've also never seen that move.
They don't drive.
Yeah, so I guess my thought is if we have a consistent person who's monitoring it and putting the notes on, the chronic offenders, you know, we probably need to, if they've been warned.
She can start,
yeah, we probably need to-
documenting who she's putting notes on. We can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Mhm.
And then, you know, chronic offenders, we could give them warning and then if need be, tow.
Yeah, I will say the signage on the east lot doesn't say anything about towing. On First Ave here, it does. I could get something and add to that lot about, you know, enforcement could lead up to removal of your vehicle.
I think that we should have that. It has teeth in it for people when they see that. People are less likely to park a spot. They see and know that it could be a tow area.
Right.
And number 2, then if we do actually tow, we have the legal legs to stand on because we did do that proper notification, so.
And are we saying parking after 4:30 is okay in there?
5 o'clock.
Or after 5 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
So that our signage will
It
say.
says that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
It says 7 to 5.
yeah.
Yeah, in the east lot, I'm
So
not sure.
towing is
First
enforced
Ave.
until 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so I think if we update the sign too, I think that would maybe draw people's attention to it a little more when they see a new sign. Even though it doesn't seem like people read signs extremely well. But our First Ave spots do have the towing note on them.
Yes, they do, but
And-
they don't have a time. There's no time limit on that.
Has there been issues on First Avenue as well? Or has it been more so the lot?
There's issues on First Ave. Yeah, there were at least 2 cars in there that weren't associated with the courthouse yesterday all day long.
Okay.
I think the time part makes sense in the lot. I'm not sure we wanna time restrict the ones on First Avenue,
Yeah,
just
I-
because they're, you know, the people that use those may be here after 5 o'clock.
and
or-
the sign's already
Yeah.
really busy as it is. Adding a time to it would be a lot.
It seems like when there's an event going on at the Masonic Temple, that, you know, if most of the First Avenue ones are empty, they seem to know that it's okay them coming in at 6:15 and parking in those
Yeah,
spots.
and normally it probably would be.
Yeah,
I will say that people on First Ave do tend to stay later. They're usually, it's department heads. You know, if there was someone in the building till 5:30, that's where they park for the most part. Is there direction on this, or?
Well,
So, I'm in favor of signage, for sure.
Yeah.
Improve the signage and stuff.
Yep.
I'm also in favor of tracking who the chronic offenders are and progressively getting to towing.
Okay, that's easy.
I don't know.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And no tickets until July 1st, or no towing until
No towing.
after
Yeah.
1st of July.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm prepared to set the manpower aside to actually have a parking attendant. You know, I think we continue to work with the city on that and then just look at the towing option as we get probably, I wouldn't want to tow before July 1st.
No, absolutely.
And kind of allow the public to get word and allow that process to play out first.
Very good. Thank you.
I was thinking,
To be mic'd up, you have to pull up to the podium, sir.
would you like to share this with me? Paul Guyland, Fayette County Engineer. I was thinking your exit space, it may be a good idea to paint a big arrow and the word exit where they like to park, because people don't like to park on paint.
Yes, that is something that I'm working on. Currently, when it rains, it's a puddle for 3 days. And it's also a hole that fills up with sand, so it's a little difficult, but yes.
All right, well, I don't think we need to take an actual vote action on that. We have some direction on going forward, and hopefully, word just gets out and the parking offenders take care of themselves. But I think it's always an issue with anything, with any business and organization, that there are parking issues that we just have to continue to monitor, so. Any other questions, comments on that? All right. On to number 11, discussion possible action on Home Base Iowa Veterans Relocation to Marshall County Program. And this is part of how we just became officially a Home Base Iowa County here, Marshall County, which is exciting. We had the ribbon cutting a week or two ago out at the Veterans Home. And so part of the initiative in looking at what's going on in other counties is a relocation incentive for veterans to come live in Marshall County. We want more veterans here. We want more people here. It's a promotion of growth. And it's also just a small token of appreciation for the veterans that have given, sacrificed a lot for us and our safety in this country. So, and the plan that that I've been looking at mirrors a lot to what Story County's doing. It's the proposal I'd like to bring here is a $2,000 relocation for someone to relocate here, and us allocating up to 8 in this first fiscal year. That's just kind of a target guess based on other counties. How Story County does it, their VA administers it. I talked to Kevin. Kevin said he would be interested in doing that. If that's something we aren't comfortable with, it's also something we can pair with the chamber, similar to the other housing program that we have that's paired with them, so they'd be administering it if we would want to do that. So there's a couple options, ways to do it. And then I would think that that $16,000 could be allocated from the economic development budget that we have set aside. So that's kind of the proposal I was thinking, and just kicking it out there today on your thoughts.
May I ask for clarification?
Correct.
When you say the first year, do you mean the year ending here June 30 of '23, or for our new fiscal year?
We do that for the new fiscal year.
And so $2,000 up to
So a total.
eight of them would be 16,000.
Correct. That was just a start for the program and see where it goes. And that's kind of a start what a lot of other counties have done. And there's a variety of other things that we can do, but it's something we want to, if we're going to be a home base Iowa County, we have the Veterans Home here. I think this is a good way to kind of stake the flag down and say this is what we're doing. So, John, did you have comments today on this as well?
Yeah, I might just, I think that was a great synopsis of what we've been looking at. John Hall with the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Supervisors. Yeah, so this is very in line with kind of what we've been talking about, and very in line with what other counties have. When we did become a home base Iowa County, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got was to look at the incentive package, to make it more robust, and to make it more in line. So we have some unique, distinctive incentives that separate us, but we need some of the kind of more routine incentives to match with what other counties have. The state of Iowa has a relocation package for veterans as they are departing active military service that are looking to locate to Iowa. But the counties that are home base Iowa counties, by and large, almost all of them have some kind of relocation assistance package, ranging anywhere from about $500 to about $2,500. So a $2,000 incentive kind of puts us right in the middle on that. In addition, the other incentives that we've got, that we've put forth, is the retail and restaurant grant incentive that our office has for new retail or restaurant opportunities in Marshalltown, as well as the new home build incentive for $10,000. Again, both of those are geared specifically to Marshalltown, and so we wanted to bring forth a proposal that would look at something countywide. In addition to that, one thing that Kevin had expressed interest in is the relocation of veterans who maybe aren't leaving active military duty, but are looking at leaving another county in the state of Iowa and relocating to Marshall County for a whole host of reasons, a lot of which are the service that he provides as a part of that. And so we had discussed, and I don't know where this discussion lies, But we had discussed the $2,000 incentive being available through the Home Base Iowa program for anybody leaving active military duty service. But then Kevin was looking at, could that $2,000 incentive also be utilized for veterans relocating from someplace else in Iowa, but that $2,000, so that would not fall under Home Base Iowa, so this would kind of fall outside of, but using that same pot of money, that same incentive, but that would only then be available to those communities that are outside of Marshalltown, so looking at our more rural communities or the unincorporated area as an additional incentive to help them grow as rural communities. So kind of using a single pot of funds in two distinctive ways. Again, we'd be capped at the 8 applicants. What I would say is I hope that we run out of money. That would be a great problem to have, and something I would be happy to be back in front of you guys asking for more funds on if we are so successful at recruiting veterans to our community. So I think those are the items I had. The only other piece I'd mention is that we had talked about after we figure out whatever incentive we're looking at, and if that's something that you guys want to approve, taking resolutions to all of our rural communities throughout the county and having them being committing to being a Home Base Iowa community as well. Not looking for incentives from them as our rural communities, but really using this as an opportunity more for PR than anything to make them aware of what it means to be a Home Base Iowa community, what tools and resources exist out there that could be helpful to them if they are ever in those conversations, but just also giving some reinforcement to the idea that the county is working on growing, and that means growing everywhere in the county, not just Marshalltown. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you all might have.
I'd like to think that we would also include people in the rural communities, not in those cities or those communities.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Unincorporated,
and, yeah,
any place in Marshall County, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yep, any place in Marshall
Great.
County for the $2,000 from folks that are existing in Iowa, locating here outside of Marshalltown. So we'd carve out that, so any unincorporated area or any of the rural communities.
John, can you describe what the state of Iowa provides for those?
So I believe that the state of Iowa's relocation incentive is a $5,000 incentive, and I may be, it's either $5,000 or $10,000, but it's a significant amount. In addition, they advertise a lot around the tax exemption for veteran benefits as well as property taxes. So that's kind of the incentive package the state of Iowa leads with, and then it's incumbent upon individual communities and counties to propose a strong set of incentives to attract them to here versus Scott County is kind of the shining star for Home Base Iowa's success in the state of Iowa at this point.
Do we have any numbers on what housing stock outside of Marshalltown is available?
I don't. I've not really pulled those resources. What I can say is that I think there are communities that are looking at opportunities to grow, and so the addition of housing stock, a tool like this, demand into their community may catalyze some of that development as well. Yeah, I mean, housing stock is a challenge everywhere throughout the county. So, yeah.
Would you like a motion on this at this point, or are we ready?
Well, I think the way that our funding works with this would start July 1, so I think the direction that I'm needing today to just get this put together is, A, are we comfortable with that amount? B, do we want to have our VA administer this or have the chamber administer it? And then I can have the official resolution to vote on to iron out all the details at our next meeting.
Well, so I think we have another nuance there is, would our Veterans Affairs Director be able to use funds for those who are already out of the service but relocating to Marshall County
Yes.
as well?
And what are your thoughts of having Kevin administer it versus the chamber
I would be just fine with it, what are other people's thoughts
with Kevin?
with Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's the simplest for us. And that's, Story County's been a good example of that. And that's kind of what we were mirroring
Is that what
towards.
Story does?
Yep.
Okay. He's the contact, that's who everybody goes to, so it just kind of makes sense, and maybe there's already a relationship there as well.
Yeah, that seems, from our perspective, that seems to be the logical step, but certainly we didn't want to assume capacity availability in Kevin's office. We have the capacity to administer that if that's something that you guys would choose. And it would be exactly like we administered the new home buyer incentive, where we'd issue the dollars and then seek reimbursement post. So, but
John, do you have any numbers for, for example, Story County or some of the surrounding counties who have done this?
I don't have the most recent updated numbers. I know that Story County has located about, or at least probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, was about a dozen. Scott County is the one that, like I mentioned, that is located probably 40 to 50 since they've been in. So certainly there is demand, but yeah, it's incumbent upon the counties to really be strong in marketing opportunities.
And do you have a sense, and maybe this is anecdotal, do you have a sense of, are they people returning to Iowa, or are they people new to Iowa?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I'd say it's probably 70-30 on folks that are familiar with the state already, relocating back. But certainly there are new folks that are coming this way. A lot of, particularly some of the maybe more senior members that are leaving active military duty service, where they've lived in their families are used to living in a lot of different places, and so home doesn't always mean home for them because they've been everywhere. They tend to be more the ones that locate to new states or new areas, and they're also the ones that bring families with them by and large. So.
Excellent, thank you. Dollar amount,
Good.
comfortable with that proposal?
2,000, up to 16, up to 8 different individuals or
Yeah,
households.
I'm comfortable with pursuing that.
Okay, well, we'll get that all drawn up and have that ready for the next meeting, so we're ready to rock and roll July 1. Awesome. Thank you very much, John. All right. On to number 12, adopt resolution 2023-27, enacting stop approaches on Eastman Avenue. Whereas the Board of Supervisors is empowered under authority sections 321.263, 321.255, and 321.345 Code of Iowa to designate any secondary road intersection under their jurisdiction as stop intersections and erect stop signs at one or more entrances to such intersection. All right. And this would be stopping southbound traffic on Eastman Avenue at the intersection of 230th Street and Eastman Avenue at the south corner of Section 3T, 83 North, R21W, State Center Township. Paul, I believe this was you
Yes.
brought this to us, and
Paul Geilenfeld, Marshall County Engineer. This is you can see it on the picture here on the aerial with the kind of close-up. Geometrically, this is a ugly intersection. This is this was brought to me by the State Senator Chief Thomas, and there was a serious accident at this intersection where the southbound vehicle ran the stop sign and actually made serious contact with the house south of the intersection. I don't think there were injuries, but were there injuries? The driver, or was there anybody in the house, or?
Not in the house.
The driver. But it was an occupied bedroom that was kind of entered by the vehicle. So I mean, it's an intersection we've looked at what to do in the past, and we just with talking with Chief Thomas, it's just time to make it an all-way stop. The initial hazard that I was looking at on this intersection when I was trying to figure out what to do, right, currently this is an east-west stop sign. on this intersection. But if you're westbound, it's almost impossible to see if there's a vehicle coming from the north because of the house and there's trees there in that residence. But I think an all-way stop here gives us a better opportunity, at least to, and we're working with the City of State Center because the north approach actually is inside the city limits, so that'll be the city erecting that sign. The purple line that's on that image is the corporate limits of State Center.
Is the City of State Center approved?
They,
Putting a stop sign up?
according to Chief Thomas, they were gonna have it on a special meeting, and I think it was last evening. I'm not sure, I think he said Tuesday night, but he called me and said they were having it on a special agenda. We would not erect our sign until we confirm that things are in line with State Center, so that we wanna put up opposing stop signs. So until they get theirs, we'll place them so that they're at the same time where it becomes an all-way stop intersection.
Did the car that hit the house, did it go through this barrier that we're looking at?
Yeah, that isn't gonna stop much. It's more for looks, in my opinion.
And so they have the option, I mean, State Center can approve and have a stop sign up that we don't necessarily have to do, or?
Well, it's a cooperative, thing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't erect the stop sign unless State Center approves it on their side.
Will they put one up if we don't, I guess is my question.
Well, we never really got to that point of the discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they couldn't erect one on the southbound on their own.
I
I'm
guess
not an
that's my
attorney.
question.
Yeah.
Is this completely our jurisdiction, or is that?
Yes, the corporate limit line is that purple
Yeah.
line on the center of the road. So
So
like
they would have to have our approval to
Yeah,
put it
we-
up on the, yeah.
we have a corporate line agreement with State Center, and when we do road improvements there, we split them on that. And it has happened just recently where we improved the east-west route to the west there when we had a resurfacing project on Eastman. It sounds like everybody involved here is in agreement that the stop approach is a good plan here.
Yes. Sheriff, you have comments for us?
Yeah, Sheriff Joel Phillips, Marshall County. Chief Thomas also did bring this to me a couple weeks ago. We had some concerns about the crash that occurred. I think part of that, it's under investigation yet, so I'm very limited on what I can talk about. With this intersection, I've been driving this intersection for over 40 years. It is very odd, and when it comes to the engineering aspect of that, I'm not quite sure how this became or why it was designed that way. But what I found out is there's been 2 crashes in this intersection. That's one thing that I look at is driver behavior, violations, and crash data. When we look at the issues in our intersections or roadways in Marshall County when we receive complaints. With this specific one, in 10 years, there's been 2 crashes. The one recently, I believe it was May 17th, where the vehicle did strike the residents there on First Avenue North. And that was about a little over 3 o'clock in the morning. There most likely been some alleged impairment and some speed obviously involved in that. And then the other crash would have happened in October of 22 on, I believe it's 230th Street, just east of that intersection, involving a tractor trailer and another parked trailer. Had something to do with some harvest issues and the configurations and maybe some distracted driving in that area. But that really had nothing to do with that intersection at this point. One thing that I noticed, I went out and looked at it yesterday. One of my concerns is the traffic flow. And there is a lot of commercial traffic. I was at that intersection about between 12:30 and 1:30. There's a lot of commercial vehicles that traverse that intersection. And I was really kind of surprised, especially on during a weekday, at that time of day. When you come in from the north on Eastman southbound, there is a 15-mile-an-hour warning sign, and Paul may elaborate on some of the warning signs and the placements of those. But it does give a warning of basically a 90-degree turn at 15 miles an hour recommended speed. Coming from the other direction, northbound, it's a 25 mile an hour speed zone. So there's some conflicting speed recommendations or limits there. I guess kind of my concern is those unintended consequences if a stop sign was put in. You know, we have quite a bit of traffic that traverse through there. I don't have the counts. I did not do any speed data collection or traffic collection.
Our last count was 750 on Eastman.
North and south.
Yeah, that's both. It doesn't tell which. It's just from the DOT in 2021 is 750.
Okay. And so when you integrate a stop sign, it obviously affects traffic flow with school functions and then also our agricultural traffic. So a little concern on that. When it comes down to the speed, I know Chief Thomas had mentioned that he received complaints of speeding in that area. Just out of this year, I did through our records management system, there was 131 traffic stops in the city of State Center, both by Marshall County deputies and State Center Police Department. There was one traffic stop in that area, so I'm not quite sure if speed is a factor in that area. It does have some, like I said, some unique characteristics. There is a church, the St. Paul Lutheran Church is on the corner. It's typically fairly busy, especially on Sunday mornings, activities there. So I would really like the board to kind of take a look at what's the benefits of this. Is it just a knee-jerk reaction because we had an unfortunate event that had caused some damage? Because you start changing traffic flows and signage, that's where we start to have some issues with other motorists that have been traversing that intersection for a long time. So
Jordan did send me the council meeting last night. It doesn't look like this made it on State Center's agenda, but if they've obviously talked to you all, you know, it's something they're considering. It just wasn't on last night's agenda, so we don't know that outcome.
from a law enforcement standpoint, I'd like to see if it's actually if it's an enforcement speed. Paul obviously is expert on the design and what could make that a better intersection, obviously. I just want to make sure that we're looking at all the data before making a decision on stop signs, because you want to create unintended consequences, more problems with traffic at that intersection than there may be.
Sheriff, it's probably safe to say that a stop sign wouldn't have had any effect on this accident that with the car.
As you can see, the distance traveled from that intersection, 230th Street, to the actual striking of the home and the damage that it did to the home. I think the estimate was $150,000 to the home. So I don't know if a stop sign would have triggered a light to come on and say, I need to stop, or it just wouldn't.
Is there an estimate on the rate of speed they were going to
Now,
cause that much?
State Center Police Department handled the traffic investigation on that, so I don't know. I don't think there was a lot of skid marks, let's put it that way.
And there are several different things we can do here to improve this intersection. It's not, the stop sign isn't the only, the only possible solution. In fact, item 14 on the agenda is the speed limit that is in this exact location that we've used in other areas where we're entering an incorporated community from 55 to a stop condition. We have one like that at St. Anthony, westbound into St. Anthony, it's like that. So that's on there as well. So if the board would choose to, or if you would say, well, let's try the speed limit and wait on the stop sign. And, or the other big thing is when you look at this intersection from the aerial view is, I've been contacted by members of St. Paul Lutheran to consider acquiring this property to the northeast and redesigning this intersection and actually putting the roads in a proper alignment. And it would require that property to be acquired, but if you look on the printout that I gave you, it kind of shows the dimensions or the outline of that lot. But that's an option. It would be a much more expensive option, an option that takes longer to get the change, but it's, I agree with Sheriff that the stop sign probably wouldn't have prevented this accident.
And I can add to number 14. We've had some duties out at the cemetery. When you go from 55 and then you see the warning sign for 15, that is a severe drop in speed from 55 to 15. That cemetery does get a lot of patrons, and I wouldn't be opposed, obviously, to lowering that speed through there. I believe Paul's had actually designed a pull-off for those patrons on Eastman Avenue, just because of the traffic volume and the speeds that are encountered out in that area of the county.
And the other reason is that we continually would rock shoulders and put shoulders into the frontage of the cemetery, which caused some, bad PR as well.
It's a very heavy traveled road, especially with farm equipment and commercial grain haulers. It's an entryway in the state center. With the stop sign that is designated as a truck route, I don't know the specific ordinances through the city of state center. Obviously with a truck route, you want to maintain some traffic flow with those deliveries.
The other potential issue with the stop sign that we could cause another bit of an issue would be if during school events or beginning right before school, there could be vehicles queued up there waiting to turn, coming southbound, where there'd be a potential for a rear end collision, where right now that's not there. So when you, like the sheriff was saying, when you change things, wait and see.
What about a flashing red light or orange, whatever, we see on a lot of stop signs?
We were gonna flash this stop sign, yes, and I think the state
What
Chief
about
Thomas said they were planning on putting a flasher
Were
on
there-
there as well.
What about before that, though? What if we put up a caution?
We
with
haven't put
flashing.
flashing lights on the stop ahead signs. There would be a stop ahead sign, preceding this stop sign. It would be approximately 500 feet north of the stop sign.
Well, yeah, what if we don't do the stop sign, though, and we do the
The speed-
flashing
the
caution?
speed reduction.
Speed
Speed
reduction ahead.
And there is one north of this intersection on Eastman and West Main Street Road, that 90-degree turn where we typically have a high volume of crashes.
You mean north of this a mile?
North of
Yeah.
that a mile, where
Okay.
you turn back to the
Right.
east.
Yeah.
There is a 15 mile, right, it's a flashing.
It's
I don't
a
know how-
yellow speed advisory sign, so I mean, you're the lawman, but the advisory speed plate's not enforceable.
Correct. It's
The-
a recommended.
It's a, this is the safe way to get around this, yeah.
So again, if we put the same sign just north of State Center, quarter mile, eighth of a mile, caution, flashing.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. I mean, like I said, we were gonna talk about the speed limit in 2 items anyway.
Okay.
I have not used lights to signify a approaching speed limit, but we do speed limit ahead and then speed limit. And this speed limit would be starting at 1,000 feet north of the intersection, so if you look at where you can kinda see where there's looks like a little pasture to the north of the north end of that property is right about where the 1,000-foot mark would be.
That could have had an effect on the accident that we had there. I think even if you're impaired, I think you pick up on red lights. I'm deferring to you, though, on that kind of thing.
Obviously with
Maybe,
impairments,
maybe
your
not.
reaction is delayed.
Very.
I think with some type of, it may not have, I can't answer that.
It would have been possibly more effective, though, than a stop sign.
Yes.
So, Joel, do you think this is worth more study or just not putting a stop sign up?
I think from Paul's done the traffic flow study. There's obviously a high volume of traffic going through there as far as speed studies, the complaints. If there's one traffic stop at 131, that's not a lot. Obviously, it's kind of between two jurisdictions. We possibly could get a data collector to adjust to see what the speeds are collecting in that area through that intersection. And we typically, when we go to that data collection, we want it over a long period of time. So we just don't pick out the anomalies or say there's a busy week or a school function. And typically what that does, it records the high and lows, speeds, the directions of travel. With this, I don't know if it'd be a good spot to catch both directions, so it might take a little bit and some coordination with State Center. I think that would be an option to find out what the speeds are coming through this intersection, if they're acceptable.
I think that might be helpful. I mean, it might help State Center decide where to spend their time as far as enforcement too, if it's.
Correct. And if we get it placed correctly, it might be able to see what are the speeds approaching that intersection, how far back is it picking, is it within 500 feet, they're going 55, and then all of a sudden we're having to do a rapid deceleration. It might help out for decision making.
I mean, my initial thoughts are hold off on the stop sign and look more into the reduction of speed. And if that is the consensus we're at, I would like to make sure that we get communication to the city of State Center, that they kind of know the reasoning why that's the angle we're looking at the time, to see if that helps them in their discussion of what they're wanting to do there as well, and if there's a better collaborative idea that we can do together on that. Because I think if they end up putting one on that south and we're thinking we're not wanting to put one on the north, that really makes that intersection dicey. Lot more confusion than, probably more confusion than a four-way, and more confusion than just the cross east-west traffic. So I'd be curious to see the direction that they're going and what they're reasoning, and I'd like to hear that dialogue, and I think it's important that they hear what we had today as well. So I think we need to find out when that is on their next meeting, and have, whether it be you guys attend or one of us attend that meeting as well, just so that everyone's on the same page, because this is one you don't want to end up kind of staggering based on, miscommunication information.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I would agree.
Excellent. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you very much. I think that, therefore, no resolution to vote on there.
Do we need to ask on anything to table it, or just leave it be and no action on it?
Just leave it,
Yeah,
yeah,
should
because
take
we
no
could
action.
completely change what direction we're going
Okay.
versus tabling it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, on to number 13. This is Adopt Resolution 2023-28, Farm to Market Review Board application. And this is, without reading all this, road segments proposed for addition to the farm market, Binford Avenue from Iowa Highway 30 to 245th Street, located on the west side of Section 17 in State Center Township, 245th Street from Binford Avenue to Canfield Avenue, located as well in that Section 17 of State Center Township. Canfield Avenue from 245th Street to Iowa Highway 30, located on the east side of Section 17 in State Center Township. And total mileage added to this farm to market system will be 1.964 miles. And then we had a deletion from our farm to market. And that would be from Underwood Avenue from Shady Oaks Road to Highway 30 on east side of Section 7 in LeGrand Township. And that is a total of 0.491 miles to be deleted there. And additionally, Iowa Avenue East from Highway 14 to corporate limits of Marshtown, located on the north side of Section 13 in Timber Creek Township, and on the north side of Section 18 on LeGrand Township. Governor Road from East Olive Street to Iowa Avenue East in Timber Creek. South 18th Avenue from East Main Street to Iowa Highway 30. Section 30 in Taylor Townships. And the east side of sections 1, 12, and 13 in Timber Creek Township for total deleted from farm to market system would be 6.467 miles. Paul, would you like to give us some
Yes.
further background on this, please?
This resolution, we don't request modifications of the farm to market system very often. The last time I did was almost 10 years ago. But this is it started out as a way to, we wanted to request to add these routes near the blood dairy because of the traffic and the importance of that route to the system and the frequency that it has to serve that dairy. And the traffic is quite a bit higher than what our 21 count shows, 10 vehicles a day, which that wasn't a physical count because the people that work there would more than amount to 150 vehicles a day in every direction unless they are really doing a lot of carpooling. The route, in speaking with the chairman of the Farm to Market Review Board, it's not the loops that come off of the state highways have not historically been approved by the Farm to Market Review Board. There's no real reason, or they don't really, it's just the past history of the Farm to Market Review Board. The loops have been hard to get approved. The goals of the Farm to Market system, when we make a request to change with the Farm to Market system, is they're looking for intra-county and inter-county continuity. So they aren't looking for point destinations. In fact, the only place you can really propose to do a point destination that just ends at a spot is a park or a state facility or some other, major destination. So that's why I requested the loop, and both of those routes serve the dairy as far as quite a bit of traffic. But we couldn't just select half of it and just get to the main entrance of both segments of the dairy. I think it warrants getting it onto the farm to market system if we can, because that opens up our funding strategies if we have a situation where we can apply for a grant because of the employment or possible potential expansion of the dairy that seems to grow quite a bit since I've been the engineer here. And I know further expansion is being considered. So I think I can make an argument to the Farm to Market Review Board to support this request, to add this. It'll just be a matter of how the current sitting board feels about it. In speaking with the chair of the Farm to Market Review Board, he was looking at our system and pointed out some areas where, and that's what brought about the deletions predominantly inside the city of Marshalltown. Our extensions are to preserve the continuity of the system. So you can see where Shady Oaks Road comes in from the east and goes all the way over to Highway 14. But the continuity factor isn't really there for 18th Avenue or Governor Road or that segment of Iowa Avenue, because Highway 30 goes right over to 14, and that's part of the network as well. The piece of Underwood that is just south of that curve on Shady Oaks, that road is very, very low traffic. It is a road that we've even considered making level C, because there are times in the winter where we have to close that road just because of the snow that it traps in. It's not a really good grade, and so I didn't see any value in keeping that in there because we have the continuity that comes from Shady Oaks Road just to the east. It also helps to possibly support our request to add, if we are deleting some of our farm to market routes in the same request, because the farm to market system is limited by state code to, I know if I guess I'm gonna say it wrong, but it's either 30 or 35,000 miles that they can have in the state of Iowa by code. So by giving some of it back, kind of help out their situation too. The extension routes that are inside the city limits of Marshalltown don't create any revenue for us, and they don't do anything to the city either. The city doesn't have any control over the farm to market routes that extend into incorporated areas. The only entities that can request changes to the farm to market system are county boards of supervisors. So that's kind of the,
Paul, what's the process as far as timeline? If we approve the application and submit it, what's the timeline with the process?
this resolution needs to be turned into the state of Iowa and their systems planning, and they put it on agenda for the Farm to Market Review Board, and that has to be in 30 days before their meeting. They next meet on July 11th, so by June 11th, I would have to have this submitted to systems planning, and that works for our schedule. The next meeting, if we chose to not do it yet with this, would be in December.
Do you see any reason not to submit this?
No, this is, I fully recommend these changes, just based on my conversation with the chair of the review board. And I do know that it's possible that they could review our application and approve all the deletions and not approve the addition. They don't, it's not an all or nothing. So they could actually even take parts of what we submit.
Away and not approve what we're really asking for?
Yeah, correct. But the system, the deletions inside of Marshalltown and ours, it does kind of clean up the continuity of it. And it's been we were looking for other places where there may be segments that are not really warranted to be part of the FM system. But
It could help us down the road, though, couldn't it, if we chose to do some work with farm and market? For instance, the other 2 miles that we've talked about going to the Ferguson Blacktop, from the Dillon Blacktop to the Ferguson Blacktop. That could be something that could be looked at in the future by removing these miles, these 6.5 miles.
Yeah, we'd have history that we're trying to, be on their team and keep the system within what the system's designed to be.
Yes.
So that helps us because they would look at our past, they can see that we don't come to the Farm and Market Review Board every year looking for changes to our system.
Right. Okay.
But that's the biggest thing, is that getting this added would allow us to be able to make improvements on that section of Binford, 245th, and Canfield with farm to market funds.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
And
our
we would
first.
also be able to match grants with farm to market funds, and that frees
That's
us up a
the
little
key,
bit because
yeah.
we're not tied to our local budget for the year that we're trying to get a grant approved.
yeah. And in talking with representatives from Blood Dairy, it sounds like expansion is already imminent here, coming up, so.
It sounded like it. yeah.
Further expansion, so.
After the resolution, I would submit this map to the Farm to Market Review Board and my justification, basically, that would talk about for us, it would be an intra-county, transportation where this route that we're requesting to add is, and talk about the existing and potential traffic and potential expansion of the dairy. And again, I will also bring up the equitable distribution of farm market route or designation, because we are giving some back at the same time when we're trying to ask for addition.
Question, John, would there be any unintended consequence of taking out those routes on 18th in the city of Marshalltown there, that you're aware of?
I couldn't see any immediate negatives that would have in terms of, I don't know the history on if we've been looking for farm to market funds for any infrastructure projects as a component of expansions or the like happening there. certainly with projects, a lot of it is infrastructure driven in terms of economic development projects, attraction of large industry. The road infrastructure in there is solid and significant, and so by removing the farm to market route on there, I don't think we would be eliminating us from anything
Okay.
from that perspective.
That's it. I'm comfortable with submitting this proposal. Do you
Yeah,
guys,
I-
any other questions, comments?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2023-0028 farm to market review board application. That would add 1.964 miles to our system and delete 6.467 miles as presented in the information.
I'll second that.
All right, we have the motion, the second. Do we have any further discussion on this?
Just a clarification, I did find in the code section that 35,000 miles is the state limit for farm to market system.
Okay. Thank you.
And one more question,
Yeah.
and maybe I've missed it. Do we know what our total in the county is?
It is on our annual report, and I do not have that number in front of me.
Okay, I was just curious.
If you could email that to us at a
Sure.
point in time, just I'm curious
Yeah, I
as well.
Email you the whole sheet that has our 700 miles of rock and our paved and our 230 miles of paving, I think.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else,
Lucas.
Steve?
No.
Could we get a stop put here at some point, so everything I said on this doesn't just go to the floor?
All right. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Solosek?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. On to number 14.
Take a 13.
We're going to take a brief recess. Before we move on to close out the rest of our meeting. Oh, we are back from our brief intermission. On to number 14, adopt resolution 2023-29, speed limit Eastman Avenue north of State Center. That's at the intersection we were speaking of in item number 12. I guess the question is, are we wanting to pursue this or hang tight, or what's?
I would like to see us just hang tight on this, not make any decisions at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
I
Yep.
agree,
Is there any other further discussion on it, though, that we want to have?
yeah.
Paul, was there anything you wanted to make sure was added so we were
Just
aware
that I
of?
wanted to see the location that I was talking about, and that's about where that property line is, south of the cemetery. I was not
Okay.
proposing to have 35 all the way along the cemetery, and that would get, more onto, that would be more like about a half mile if we went to the north border of the cemetery. Anyway,
Yeah.
that ends up being, it's worth the trouble because it's a long 35 that tends to get ignored more, I think.
Excellent. Anything else, Sheriff, on this to add?
No, I think everything is covered at this point.
Okay.
We'll go through four of the data collections and come up with some numbers.
How long do you think that will take, Joe?
I would at least run it 7 full days, but I would like to run it 2 weeks, just any anomalies with the school events, the summer vacation. So there's a lot of school traffic, I think, that goes through that intersection. Hopefully, maybe by next board meeting, we'll present some data.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other further discussion, questions? All right, thank you for all the good discussion on that this morning. On to number 15, adopt resolution 2023, 30 county official bond approval pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 64. This is a formality cleanup, updating our county bonds for the code section Chapter 64 for continued compliance for Marshall County. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-0030, county official bond approval pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 64.
I'll second that.
All right, we have the motion and the second. Do we have any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Slosson?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Excellent. Got that approved. On to number 16. It was a tabled item from a previous meeting. I don't have the date on that previous meeting, but this is review and possible approval of a new Animal Rescue League contract. And I think we need an official motion to remove this item from the table for that discussion.
I would make a motion then to remove this item from the table for discussion and possible action.
I'll second that.
All right, we have that motion the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle?
Yes.
Slosson?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Here we go. So Animal Rescue League, they came to us, and Rachel, you can come on up. We've had a contract that's been since 2009, I believe is when that was originally signed, so we're looking to updates. We've had the sheriff's office in discussion as well on some things they'd like to see changed in the contract. Also, we've reviewed other towns' contracts, the city's contracts, and a couple other, at least one other county's contract as well. So, and what we've seen in looking at it is there's some inconsistencies that we want to get consistent in the contracts, and we do want to make sure that what the county is paying for the animal control of the county is adequate. And so I know the first two things that I had seen in the contract that I would like to see changes. I know that we had when there was a pickup, the current rate is a minimum of $15, and the rate was like 50 cents for a mileage rate. I'd like to see that change to a $25 minimum and just have it in the contract where it's consistent with the current IRS rate, so that whenever that changes, it's just staying current with whatever that rate is. That's one thing I know that I saw I'd really like to see changed. Number two, I'd like to see the portion that that our sheriff's office, the sheriff and/or deputy would also be able to make that call on when an animal pickup is required. That doesn't have to necessarily go through a board of supervisor member in those situations. And so those were the items I know from the county that we were ready to take on. Is there any other discussion from the board members before we have Rachel give a little more update on what's going on with them? All right, Rachel, thank you.
Rachel Buchanan, Executive Director of the Animal Rescue League. Thank you, Jared, you covered that pretty good. I would agree with all those changes that they need to be made. Two other changes that I would like to propose would be that we do not respond to after-hours calls unless it is an emergency. We, first and foremost, serve Marshalltown. We are the Animal Rescue League of Marshalltown, and I only have one animal control officer currently on call. And I cannot serve Marshalltown at the same time that I am serving the county. On average, we get 7 to 10 calls every we count it by 2 weeks. So every couple of weeks, we have 7 to 10 calls that my animal control officer responds to. And I can't serve the entire county with just one animal control officer. So I am more than happy to dispatch somebody for an emergency, like a situation that we ran into a couple of weeks ago. More than happy to do that, but I would request that we do not be dispatched after hours. We do have a specific drop-off area for law enforcement to drop animals off after hours. Another change that I would like to see added, and this is something that I have discussed with Sheriff Phillips, is that we be allowed to pick up deceased stray pets in order to hold them until an owner could potentially be found. That's something that is absent from the current contract, but is mentioned in our city contract that we don't pick up deceased pets, and that's mainly to keep people from calling us to pick up pets that have passed away at home. Picking up deceased animals out in the county helps remove the animal from the side of the road, and then also, if there is an owner looking for it, helps us to reunite them with their pet sooner. Those are two things that I would like to see changed immediately. And I know I missed the deadline for an increase in our annual pay rate, but I would request that for the next fiscal year that we do have discussions on increasing our yearly compensation.
Okay, and I think you detailed that in the worksheet that you presented to, and I made sure both board members have that. And I think with the next years on what we're looking, similar to what John Hall was talking this morning about our home base Iowa, I'd like to get a mayor's meeting with the board sometime in the late summer, early fall to talk about these two items. And in this particular case, just making sure that there isn't an overlap of services between the towns and the county, and making sure that there's adequate coverage. That's something that at that point when we get that scheduled, I'd like to have you there as well to help us just make sure that we have a good framework for animal control in the county, and that all of our towns are in a consistent consensus agreement that there's adequate coverage, and that we're all being treated fairly, you're being treated fairly, and it's a cleaner process. I think is something we're all looking for on this.
Yeah, all of the municipality contracts that I have specify only certain people can bring me animals, and the city, that particular city will reimburse for the cost of that animal, and only one of those cities lists law enforcement. So that's something that I would definitely like to discuss once we sit down with the mayors.
Excellent.
I think Joel won.
Joel, do you have an
Just to
added
kind of
question,
clarify
comment?
that too, with a lot of our contract town law enforcement, we are acting as the police department, so that would be our, we are acting that capacity as the police department with our contracted towns, which is everyone except for State Center and Marshalltown,
Okay.
in those incorporated areas.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what you had shared with me on the item on bumping the weight or the There was a stipulation you shared with me on one of the items that we wanted to change. I'm drawing a blank on what it was. I just want to make sure that was.
Is it the mileage?
It wasn't on the mileage, it's on the other one. I don't know if there was to make sure there was a particular process done, or maybe I'm just making up things in my head, because we've had a lot of things in this meeting today.
The mileage is the only thing I can think of.
Okay. All right, so today we don't have the physical contract prepared. We're just getting this direction of how the board wants to proceed, and your input so that we can have these immediate items taken care of in a contract, hopefully by our next meeting. And so I guess the first thing is, are we comfortable with changing that to emergencies only after hours? And I guess my first question for you on that is, have we had any issues? Have you been receiving a lot of calls from us of non-emergencies after hours?
There have been a couple of them, but
An
And those would have come from the sheriff's department?
examples for those would be
Yeah.
just so that we know what they are.
just picking up animals. Like a non-emergency would just be picking up an animal that's already contained, and
Contained. Okay.
there's no danger to the officer, there's no danger to the public. So a friendly animal that's contained that could be brought out to us.
So do you
Would be
have
considered a
dates and
non-emergency.
specifics on that?
On what would be considered emergency, or?
No, on times you were sent,
No, I don't have that.
requested to come that were not emergencies?
I don't have that in front of me, no.
Do you have data on that?
The one I can think of would have been a death investigation, where there's 4 dogs in the home, and we could not get into the home for that individual. In my,
I would consider that an emergency.
Yeah, I say I would
Consider that
consider
emergency.
that.
So I mean, I don't have any issue with that. I think
No,
it's
I
just a
agree.
matter of then just we'll need to know clarification so all parties know what is considered emergency and what's not, so that we're, not taking advantage of the contract in that point. So, the pickup of deceased stray pets, and that's something you currently have been doing, and it's not in the contract, or
We haven't really done it out in the county, but we have done it in the city.
okay. And it's something that I think out in the county jurisdiction probably doesn't happen very often, but it's probably a good thing to have in the contract in the case that it does.
We had discussed this.
Okay, good. Good deal. Any other questions, thoughts on that? Did any discussion on that mileage rate and bumping that minimum to $25?
Was there also a mileage part of that
So-
too?
so yeah,
Or,
the-
The mileage to
the mileage-
federal.
mileage, yeah.
To
It
the-
was just making it federal,
Okay.
whatever the
The
federal
55 cents or
IRS
whatever
rate
it is
It's
right
like
now.
65
right
now.
now.
65 right now, whoa.
Yeah.
And so that 50, I mean,
Yeah.
that's archaic.
Well,
Okay.
it just takes anything out of it deciding for us,
Yeah.
just whatever the IRS rate is.
Let's do that.
And then when you have that in there versus today's IRS rate, we're not having to change the contract anytime there's that adjustment. It's in the contract, whatever that is, and that's the rate we go with.
Yep, that's fine.
And then the portion of, in section 1 of the current contract, it said that the animal rescue shall, upon request of a member of the 3 Board of Supervisors, and I'd like to add, or Marshall County Sheriff or Sheriff Deputy. They're the ones that can make the request for a pickup. And so that was the other portion. Was there any other further discussion on that? Any other further clarification? Okay, good. All right, so adding the emergencies only, pick up deceased stray pets, and then those 2 other items of bumping the rate and allowing the sheriff deputy to make that request of a pickup. Any other additions, anything you want to make sure that anything in the detail of the contract I prepare for next meeting?
I don't think so.
Anything else from you, Rachel? Awesome. And then,
Does the sheriff have anything?
yeah, that's good. Thank you. Sure. Hop on if.
The only thing that I may want to clarify is the emergencies. People have different views on what an emergency is. Typically, the deputies will exhaust all avenues to find a homeowner. One thing that comes to mind is if there's an arrest out of the vehicle where the pet is, it is contained. It's not like the pet can go with the tow company or impound company. I would define that as an emergency if we can't get a hold of a family member to come pick up the animal. We do try to exhaust all those avenues before calling out ARL or transporting. That would be the other one. If it's friendly, we would transport that. So the definitions of emergencies, it's might be kind of open to interpretation.
This is way out of left field, but is there a chance that we could house a pet or something like that at the sheriff's department for an overnight situation, or would that be of value or no?
I would have to look into that a little bit to see if you'd have to have the care and containment and what the liability would be
Okay,
for the facility.
probably a bigger thing than
It wouldn't hurt to look. I mean, a lot of times with, we understand the call out is a considerable amount of time, especially in the middle of the night. Nobody likes to getting up in the middle of the night, so we try and contain those animals and drop them off, like Rachel said, at the drop-off point, and we try and do that as much as we can. Most of the pets are fairly friendly, but we do have some that
can be aggressive.
can be a little aggressive. And we're making some changes. I think we're gonna get a catch pole just for those situations where would add to our toolbox, because we're fairly limited right now. And mostly with the aggressive animals, if it comes down to a use of force, it would be a taser deployment, and a lot of times the animal runs away, which is kind of defeating the purpose of what we're doing. So we're looking for different options, and we talked to Rachel about some of them.
Yeah, and in my proposal, I suggested that I'm a nationally certified animal control officer, and I would be more than happy to do training with your deputies.
Wonderful. Well, good. Well, especially on the emergency situations, we'll just make sure we have that open dialogue to make sure we're clear on both ends of what that is. And of course, as time goes on, different situations will come up that we have to determine, is this actually an emergency or not? So, so we'll just work together on that. And then, so yeah, we'll get this contract worked up for our next meeting, June 21st. And then we'll look to late summer, early fall to put that mayor's meeting together, so then we can begin that process for the budgeting on any other adjustments, like the requests that you have for us.
I remember something.
Yeah.
Because we discussed this last time, on whether or not, so the contract specifies currently that any resident of Marshall County can bring a stray animal. I think we need definition on who the county is responsible for and who the cities are responsible for, because it's very unclear now in terms of if somebody who lives in Albion were to bring me an animal, a member of the public, right now, the way things are laid out, it's on the county, because that specified person on the city contract did not bring me that animal. I think that needs a lot of clarification.
Okay, and I think that's the clarity that we need in the sense of the law enforcement is doing the law enforcement for this contract for the city. So, I mean, I think it would technically fall under the city, but the way that our contracts are, it's not clear. And that's one of the key things I want to make sure when we have our mayor's meeting, that we're clearing that one up and that everyone's all on the same page. Thank you for, and I knew there was something else on there, and that was one of them. Thank you. Anything else from? Awesome. So I don't think we need the official vote, because that's not the contract that we're signing today, but that is the direction for us to proceed. So thank you, Rachel, for being here today. We appreciate it. All right, on to number 17, public forum. Time set aside for the public to make comments on topics other than county business. County business other than those listed on the agenda, and no action will be taken on any of these topics brought in public forum today. Do we have anyone? Awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you for everyone for being here. On to the next item is number 18, adjournment. The next regular session is Wednesday, June 21st, 9 a.m. here, Courthouse First Floor Meeting Room, 1 East Main Street. All business to be acted upon. That session should be submitted to the County Auditor and Recorder's Office or the Board of Supervisors Office by Wednesday, June 14th at noon. There being no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned at 10:31 a.m. Thank you very much and enjoy the day.